Hello, everybody. This is Sean Murphy. We're back with another installment of the 1455 interview. If this is the first time you're checking us out, the idea of this interview is intended to be short and sweet-ish. We try to pack as many questions that are not super probing, but an attempt to get really behind what makes certain authors tick. And today, I am so thrilled to welcome back our dear friend, Angie Kim. I hope some of you are already aware. Angie has been with us a few times in the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
We were fortunate enough to get her as part of our author series in April of 2019, right before the roller coaster was right at the top, and then whoosh, and her career completely exploded. And somehow, I think I guilted her into still being friends with us because she's been so gracious and kind to keep hanging out. She was our keynote author at last year's Lit Fest, and she was our VIP returning celebrity at this year's Lit Fest. So when I started the 1455 interview and started picking names, she was on the short list of people I had to get in. So Angie, thank you so much for being back with us. Let me introduce you, and then we'll bring you on.
Yay.
Angie Kim is the debut author of the national bestseller Miracle Creek, a literary courtroom drama that's been named an Indie Next and Library Reads pick, a best book of 2019 so far by Time Magazine and Amazon, a Washington Post Summer Read selection, and a top 10 Apple Books debut of the year. Her other writing has appeared in Vogue, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Glamour, Salon, and Slate. She moved from Seoul, Korea to Baltimore as a preteen and attended Stanford University and Harvard Law School, where she was editor of the Harvard Law Review. Then practiced as a trial lawyer at Williams & Connolly, and she currently lives in Northern Virginia with her husband and 3 sons. Angie Kim, thank you for joining us. It's always great to see your face.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. And you have the really, really, really long bio that I think has not been updated. So I'm so sorry about that.
Well, I'm sure there's been a few more accolades like the Edgar Award and some other things.
No, I think most importantly, we shortened that bio down. So it's like 10 seconds long.
I like to brag on you, and that it's all warranted. It's one thing, we know the difference between people who pad their resume and people who have encomiums to spare. You are the latter. You are well warranted. So nice. Congratulations, and also as you continue to be a presence and a welcome one on the literary scene.
Thank you.
All right, I'm dying to jump in.
Okay, yeah.
I think you're ready to roll.
Yeah,
your first rodeo. So let's start at the beginning. What's the first book that made you want to be a writer, or a book that changed your life?
Okay, that's I'm gonna go with "It Changed My Life," and it's a book called "In the Lake of the Woods" by Tim O'Brien, which I love. And I think you've probably heard me talk about it because I tell everybody this story about how it was the book that actually helped me to decide not to be a lawyer anymore when I was a trial lawyer in my 20s. Because after this really grueling month, when I had 3 trials in a row, I had this one day off, probably the first full day off that I'd had from work in 5 years or something. And I sat in one sitting, in this glorious restaurant in San Francisco by myself, because it was a really awful day. So I was the only person insane enough to actually be outside. And just had a bottle of wine, plate of cheese and fruit, and read this book from cover to cover in one sitting. It's a very thin book, and it's a mystery of a missing person. And it's really experimental in form, probably the first literary novel that I really read in, outside of college and high school, and just loved it so much, loved the experience, closed the book and thought, I am so happy. And what am I doing in this career that this is the first time I remember having an entirely happy day like this. I need to get out of this career. And so that night announced to my then boyfriend, now my husband, that I was no longer going to be a lawyer. And he, being a litigator, totally understood and was like, great, yay, toast to you.
That's awesome. I love it, and I second your emotion. Tim O'Brien's a big hero of mine. I love that book, and of course, the things they carried is usually name checked, but for good reason. But he's a life changing author, I think, in a lot of ways.
Totally, totally. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say? Who or what is your most profound artistic influence?
Mm, maybe, maybe Jennifer Egan and maybe Kate Atkinson. Um, because I just, you know what I love about them? I love their careers, both of them, and I sort of aspire to what they've done, which is they just seem to go from like category to category, genre to genre, and they change, like their voices are very different from book to book, sometimes even within a book, you know, and they feel free to sort of change formats, categories, genre. They go from like sci-fi to historical fiction to, you know, mystery. You know, Kate Atkinson even does like, you know, PI types of, you know, private detective novels. And so I feel like they just show what's possible and without being pigeonholed. And that's what I aspire to anyway. Who knows? Because I haven't written my second book yet. So, you know, but that's what I'd like to do. So, yeah.
Right on. And I think that you just articulated, right, the real difference, the simple difference between, you know, what we call genre fiction, or at least formulaic by design, versus a literary author who can't help but set challenges for herself because they're so in love with the language and the idea of storytelling. I think there's something to that.
Right.
By the way, I forgot to introduce at the beginning my shtick, but I did press the button while you were talking. The timer is going on, so that's part of our, we set it for 14 minutes, 55 seconds. We're on the clock.
Cool.
What's an album or movie that you recommend without reservation?
Okay, so easy. Parasite.
It's so a new entry into our oeuvre. Nice.
New entry, but so good. And you know, I've now watched it probably like 3 times in the theater and, you know, at home with the subtitles, without, it's just in any way you can watch it. I think it's just so good. And with each watching, I get something new out of it. And I think it's great for storytelling. I think it's great for screenwriting. I think it's great for acting. It's just in so many different ways. It's great.
And I'm so thankful that this already is showing what this silly little series is designed to do. Robert Anthony Siegel last week named a 1930s musical, and you're talking about a cutting edge. I love the variety we're going to get from different people.
Oh, good. Good.
What about the best first or last line of any book?
Okay, so I actually looked this one up because I didn't want to get it wrong. It's Maxine Hong Kingston's The Woman Warrior, which is so cool because it's sort of like short story slash fable slash memoir, but memoir in like a short story. So I just love that. Anyway, and so I love that it's just the book itself is like a weird mix of all different things. But the first line is, "You must not tell anyone, my mother said, what I am about to tell you." And I think it's just so cool because that's what the book is about. It's about like these stories that these Chinese women are not supposed to tell. And so it fits with that. And also how intriguing that, like, you know, she said, so obviously we're going to be told, you know, stuff that we're not supposed to hear, which is just so intriguing, you know, as a reader. And you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, let me go right in there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. How about, is there an underrated author that you would like to champion?
Yeah. Okay. And this is ridiculous that I'm saying she's underrated, because everybody knows her. And she has like 400,000 bestsellers, but I think it's Laura Lippman. And I think it's because, I mean, and everybody knows her and whatever, but I feel like people just don't like revere her in the same way that I feel like they revere, you know, like somebody like a Stephen King or something, you know what I mean? And I just feel like she's written over 20 books, and her consistency in her excellence is just amazing. And what I love is she's also, unlike other people who are that productive, and who are so quick to, you know, produce new works, it pays so much attention to the prose as well as the plot. So it's not in any way sort of like formulaic or, and she's also like challenging our notions of what it means to be a crime writer also. And so I just feel like from all of those perspectives, like she's just amazing. And I can't even imagine being that productive and having your prose just and just your books be amazing, like book after book.
She's a literary superhero, right? Because she can bring, I know my dad's read her, you read her. I know people across the demographic spectrum that are all in love with her, and that speaks volumes, I think.
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Deal.
Yeah.
All right, my self-indulgent, half-joking question. Why have you not read Moby Dick? Or if you have, is there a particular classic you regret not having read?
Yeah, okay, so I have. I think I did for like, you know, AP English, who knows, something like that in high school, but I haven't read in a long time. But one book that I don't think I have read, because I think I watched the movie and then I was like, oh, that's enough, is Dr. Zhivago. And I really want to, because this past year I read, have you read Laura Prescott's The Secrets We Kept? She's a debut author friend of mine, and it was a huge hit last year. And we've done a lot of events together and things. And The Secrets We Kept is the story of the CIA, you know, sort of secretaries and sort of and their connection to the text of the manuscript of Dr. Zhivago when the Soviet Union was trying to suppress it, or was it Russia at that time, whatever. And so so now, having read that book, which so depends a lot on Dr. Zhivago, the story, I really want to go back and actually read it, rather than, I mean, I know like the basics from the movie again.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to read that.
Cool. That's two recommendations, and two in one. I love it.
Yeah.
Talk about your writing routine, or do you have one, and do you believe in them?
Yeah, love. I need my writing routine. In fact, I really like writing in two places. Either a tiny little writing closet that I have at home, and it's literally a closet. It's like a broom closet too. It's not even like a big closet. It's windowless. It's like has very bad Wi-Fi. Or I can also write in my car. But that's, you know, just because of waiting in the parking lots for my kids. But before I do anything, I do like a little thing of meditation / you know, prayer to the writing gods and whatever. So yeah, I'm not particularly religious, but I do that, and I can't really get going until I do that.
I think many writers are not religious, but all writers are superstitious.
Oh, totally. So superstitious. I'm so superstitious.
Right now. Well, okay. So along those lines, what about writer's block? Have you ever suffered from it? Do you believe in it?
I'm suffering it right now. I totally believe in writer's block. I mean, I don't believe in it. I think it's something that you can get out of. I think in my case, it's always, the writer's block is always a case of my fear about what I'm about to write, of not being good enough. And also I'm coming to believe it's also, especially, I especially have writer's block if I'm excited about the idea, because I don't want to screw it up by screwing up the execution of it. Like, I want to keep the potential, and I'm so in love with the potential that I just want to, as long as I'm not writing it, then the potential is still there, and the potential is still like 100%. Whereas as soon as I start writing it, then I might realize that it's actually not a good idea. And I just don't want to realize that, you know, because I want to just sort of revel in it.
I think all writers can totally relate to that. And it's probably really illuminating for non-writers to understand the truth of that, and that's something that all writers and creatives struggle with to a certain extent.
Oh, totally.
And even when you finally execute it, it seldom is this ephemeral vision that you initially conjure up. But I think if you write through that, you can surprise yourself and maybe transcend it in some ways. But that's a real thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a letter that I wrote to myself when I was beginning Miracle Creek called, it's a letter to my fear monster. And I sort of like, was like, you are keeping me from writing just because I'm so excited about the idea. And, I had to have a very earnest, heartfelt discussion with my fear monster and sort of say, if you don't let me do this, then it's never going to get out there in the real world. And, so let's do
that
this and try it.
that sounds like the title of a new anthology a bunch of us need to contribute to, Battling the Fear Monster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's put that, let's park
Letters
some
to
lots.
my fear monster. Yep, absolutely.
All right, so talk about, if you care to, an important setback, artistic or otherwise, that has impacted your writing career.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even writing career, like, because I think you had, when you sent it over, you said in, maybe even in your life. And I think
Yeah.
it's a hard question because I feel like failure is such an everyday thing for me. And, I feel like there's so many things that in the moment I'm devastated by because something doesn't go my way, or I can't do something the way I want, or I don't get something that I wanted, or whatever. But then I always look back and there's always a good reason why, in retrospect, I think to myself, you know what, that was really a good thing that happened to me. That quote unquote failure, even though it was a failure objectively speaking, and it really was devastating and so hurtful at the time, is actually something that ended up making my life into the one I have currently, whether it be something that led me to meeting my husband, for example, you know what I mean? Like, which I wouldn't have if I'd gotten that thing that I wanted, or, stuff like that. And so I think in that sort of a weird, corny way, I try to tell myself that, like, the stuff that I'm facing, which are failures and rejections and all of those things, are not really, like, they're sort of meant to be. Again, like with the superstitious thing, so.
Wonderful wisdom, not only for writers, but really for anyone. That's life
Yeah.
wisdom there.
Yeah.
All right, so if you can, talk about or define what literary success means to you.
Um, I think actually for right now, and I think I'm sure that I would answer it differently at different times, but for right now, because I am suffering from this writer's block and having so much trouble moving on and writing and getting really a good start to my second novel, I would define it as, just being in that groove when you are writing and you are happy with, sort of doing what you're doing. And then, there's that magical moment when the next morning you wake up and you have a cup of coffee and you're reading through maybe, like, the paragraph or a page that you wrote the previous day, and you're so excited about it and you just can't wait to get, to continue. I think that to me is literary success, like right now. And I'm sure, like, before my book came out, I would have said something completely different because I wasn't writing at that time. So I wasn't focused on that.
Yeah.
But right now, that seems like I just want to get back to that. I want to get back to that joy because I feel like I haven't had that in a long time.
Well, you will. So,
I hope.
all right, we're running down, but
Okay.
do you have a piece of advice for any author or writer that's starting out?
Yeah. Oh.
But we always get it's kind of like the hot dog eating contest. If the hot dog's in your mouth, you get to swallow it. So if the question's been asked, you get to answer it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think it's to start with short stories or essays or whatever, and just get them published and go through the whole process, like writing, revising, refining, getting feedback, submitting it, getting rejected, revising again, submitting some more, getting it accepted somewhere, anywhere, and going through the editorial process, and then finally seeing it up, and then being able to, like, tell your mom and dad, like, here's something that I published, that's me and that's mine. I think that is so important to go through, and I think so many people are in such a hurry to write a book or publish a book that they skip right over that, which I think is a shame. Because I think that's what being a writer is like, and I think you need to know what that's like before you can go on to a book, I think.
Thank you so much for that. Angie, so in addition to loving you because you're an awesome writer and a obviously remarkable human being, I really am so inspired by you. You've had a trajectory that many of us envy and aspire to, but you're so grounded, you're so humble, and what really comes through to me and what I learn every time I talk to you is you're in love with the process and you're in love with understanding that it's the day in and day out and being humbled by the creative process. I think that's it's definitely inspiring to me, but I hope people watching this understand that to build the life of a writer, it's a life. There's not a flash of miraculous grace and suddenly you're there. It's the day in, day out process. I think you epitomize that. So thank you for sharing that wisdom with us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again because it's the literary mafia with 1455.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We pulled you in, and now you can't get out.
I love this. This is so fun. Thank you. This is my homemade Bloody Mary.
And I think you had wine the last time we talked, so that's another wonderful tradition that will continue.
Okay.
Angie, and those of you that are checking this out, the hype is real. Check out Miracle Creek. Get on board because the train is still hurtling down the tracks. Angie, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.